Clara Bennett's knees cracked against frozen ground hard enough to break bone. But pain was the least of her worries. Her 5-year-old son Jesse hung limp in her arms, his lips blue against snow-white skin, and she knew with terrible certainty that this was how they would die. 3 days without food, 4 nights sleeping in abandoned barns, and now a blizzard on the Wyoming prairie with nowhere left to run. She pressed her face against Jesse's burning forehead and screamed into the wind. The sound was swallowed by the storm like it had never existed at all. Then through the white curtain of snow, a figure appeared. A man, their last hope or their final judgment. Before I go any further, I need you to do something for me right now. Subscribe to this channel. Do not wait. This story gets darker before it finds light, and you will want to see how Clara and her son survive what is coming next. When you finish listening, comment below with your city name. I want to see how far this story travels, from Wyoming's frozen prairie to wherever you are watching tonight. Now let us go back to that moment when everything changed. The Wyoming winter of 1883 had no mercy. Clara had learned that truth mile by frozen mile, dragging Jesse through snow that came up to her knees, feeling his weight grow heavier as fever consumed him from the inside out. She had left Philadelphia 8 weeks ago with a train ticket, 3 dresses, and $20. The money was gone. The dresses were rags, and the train had only taken them as far as Cheyenne before the conductor discovered she could not pay for meals. "End of the line, ma'am," he had said, not unkindly. "Cannot let you ride further without paying." So she had walked west, always west, because Victor's Pinkerton detectives would be searching east, back towards civilization, toward places a proper widow would go. But Clara Bennett was not proper anymore. Proper women did not run. Proper women did not flee their brother-in-law's custody claim with nothing but a sick child in desperation. Proper women died quietly. "Mama," Jessie whimpered against her neck. "Mama, I am cold." "I know, baby, I know." Clara's breath came in white clouds that froze on her eyelashes. The prairie stretched endlessly in every direction, white and featureless under the storm. She had been following a fence line for hours, or maybe days. Time had lost meaning. Fence meant property. Property meant people. And people meant help, or judgment, or both. Her boot caught on something buried in snow. She stumbled, nearly dropped Jessie, caught herself against a fence post. The wood was solid, recently mended. Someone cared for this land. Someone lived here. "Please," Clara whispered to the storm, to God, to anyone listening, "please let them be kind." Through the driving snow, shapes emerged. A barn, dark and massive. A house, 2 stories, smoke rising from the chimney. Corrals empty, now, the horses sheltered from the storm. Everything spoke of competence, of care, of a life built through hard work. Clara's legs nearly gave out with relief. She forced herself forward. 20 yards. 10. The porch steps looked like a mountain. She climbed them. Her frozen hand reached for the door, formed a fist, knocked. Nothing. She knocked again, harder. "Please, my son is sick, please, someone help us." Still nothing. Clara's vision blurred. The cold was inside her now, numbing everything. Jesse's breathing was too shallow, too fast. He was dying in her arms and no one was coming. She was going to fail him, just like she had failed Henry, just like she had failed everyone who had ever depended on her. The door opened. Clara looked up into the face of judgment itself. The man who stood there was tall, broad-shouldered, weathered by decades of prairie sun and wind. 40 years old, maybe older, with dark hair going gray at the temples and eyes that held nothing. No welcome, no warmth, just empty assessment. He wore work clothes, smelled of horses and leather, and looked at Clara and Jessie the way a rancher looks at stray cattle, calculating whether they were worth the trouble. "Help," Clara managed. "Please, my son." "How long has he been fevered?" The question was cold, clinical. Clara's hope flickered. 2 days, maybe 3. "I do not know. I have lost track. Please, do you have medicine? Water? Anything?" The man's jaw tightened. His eyes moved from Jesse's flushed face to Clara's desperate expression, and something shifted in his face. Not softening exactly, but a decision being made. "Come inside." He turned without waiting for response, leaving the door open. An invitation or a test? Clara did not care which. She followed him into warmth that felt like knives after the cold outside. The house was clean but sparse. Furniture worn from use, not neglect. A kitchen dominated by a cast iron stove throwing heat. Everything functional, nothing decorative. A man's space long emptied of a woman's touch. Put him on the table. Claire obeyed, laying Jesse on the scrubbed wood surface. The boy's eyes rolled beneath closed lids, his small body shaking with chills despite the fever. The rancher moved to the stove, worked the pump at the sink. Water gushed clear and cold. He filled a tin cup, brought it to the table. Hold his head. Clara cradled Jesse's skull while the stranger brought the cup to her son's cracked lips. Water dribbled in. Jesse's throat worked weakly, swallowing. That is it, the man murmured. Easy, not too fast. His voice had changed, still gruff but gentler, like he was talking to a skittish horse. Thank you, Clara breathed. Thank you so much. I can pay you, I just need time to… When did you last eat? The question caught her off guard. Yesterday. No, the day before. I gave Jesse my portion. He needed… You are no good to the boy if you collapse. The rancher moved to the stove, ladled something from a pot into a bowl. Stew, thick with vegetables and meat, steam rising. He set it in front of her with a spoon. Eat. I cannot accept charity. Not charity. You want to help your son? You eat. Cannot nurse a sick child on an empty stomach. Clara stared at the bowl. Pride warred with hunger, and hunger won. She picked up the spoon with shaking hands and took a bite. It was the most delicious thing she had ever tasted. She forced herself to eat slowly, though every instinct screamed to devour it. The rancher ignored her, focused on Jesse. He fetched a brown bottle from a cabinet, mixed something that smelled bitter into warm water. Willow bark, he said, getting spoonfuls of the mixture between Jesse's lips. For the fever. Will not cure what ails him, but it will bring the temperature down. What does ail him? Exhaustion, malnutrition, bad water probably if you have been drinking from prairie streams. The man's hands were surprisingly gentle on Jesse's small face, checking his pulse, his breathing. How long have you been walking? 2 weeks, maybe longer. From where? Cheyenne, the rancher's hands stilled. That is 70 miles. You walk 70 miles in winter with a child. I did not have a choice. There is always a choice, not for my being. Clara set down the spoon, her stomach rebelling against the sudden food. My brother-in-law wants custody of Jesse. He has lawyers, money, connections. I have nothing, so I ran. Running is not the same as having a plan. My plan was survival. So far, it has worked. The rancher looked at her then, really looked, and Clara forced herself to meet his gaze. Let him see her desperation. Let him see her determination. Let him see she was not some helpless woman looking for a man to save her. She was a mother who would do anything to protect her child. Something flickered in those cold eyes, not quite approval, but maybe respect. Name is Cole Hawthorne, he said. This is my ranch. You are on Hawthorne land now. Clara Bennett, and this is Jesse. Mrs. Bennett? Yes. Cole nodded slowly, processing information she had not given. Widow, alone, running. He was calculating, she could see it, weighing whether she was worth the trouble. Your boy needs rest, Cole said finally. Real rest, in a real bed with regular food and medicine. Cannot do that in one night. I understand. If you could just let us stay until the storm passes. Storm will pass tomorrow, maybe the day after. Boy needs longer than that. Week, maybe 2. Depends how strong he is. 2 weeks. Victor could find them in 2 weeks. The Pinkertons could track them here, serve papers, take Jesse away. I can work, Clara said quickly. I am educated. I can read, write, do figures. I can cook, clean, whatever you need. Just let us stay until Jesse is well enough to travel. Please. Cole's expression did not change. Where are you planning to go after? West? California maybe? Somewhere Victor cannot find us. California is a long way. Costs money you do not have. I will find work along the way. Woman alone with a child in winter. Cole shook his head. You will not make it past the next town. The truth of it hit Clara like a fist. He was right. She had barely made it this far, and that was pure luck. Another storm, another town that refused her work, another week of Jesse growing sicker. They would not survive. Then what do you suggest? Clara's voice came out sharper than intended. That I give up? Let Victor take my son and control his inheritance? Let Jesse grow up thinking his mother abandoned him? Suggesting you face facts. Running will not save you. Only way to beat a man with lawyers and money is with lawyers and money of your own. I do not have. I know what you do not have. Question is, what are you willing to do to get it? Clara stared at him. What are you proposing? Cole was quiet for a long moment. His eyes moved to Jesse, to the small, fevered body on his kitchen table, and something painful crossed his face. Had a wife once, he said quietly. Margaret. She died 6 years ago, childbirth. Baby died too, a daughter. Buried them both on the hill behind the house. Clara's throat closed. Mr. Hawthorne, I am sorry. Do not need sorry. Need you to understand why I am making this offer. Cole's jaw worked. This ranch needs an heir. I am 38 years old and I am not marrying again. Not for love, but for practical purposes. For a woman who needs protection and a boy who needs a father, that is different. The room tilted. You are suggesting marriage? Legal, binding, filed with the territorial court. You would be Mrs. Hawthorne. Jesse would be my son by law. And your brother-in-law's custody claim would be worthless. Judge will not take a boy from married parents running a successful ranch. Clara could not breathe. Marriage to a stranger. Living on an isolated ranch. Binding herself to a man who clearly still loved a ghost. But Jesse would be safe. Victor could not touch them. They would have food, shelter, security. What would you expect from this marriage? She asked carefully. Cole's expression did not change. Work. You said you can cook, clean, do figures. Ranch accounts are a mess. House has not had a woman's touch since Margaret died. I need domestic help, not... He stopped. This is a practical arrangement, Mrs. Bennett. I am not looking for affection. And if I refuse? I will let you stay until the boy is well. Give you supplies for the road. His voice was flat, factual. And you will leave here with the same problems you arrived with. It was not a threat, just fact. Clara looked at Jesse, so small and vulnerable, on the table. His breathing had already eased slightly from the willow bark. His color was better. This man, this stranger, had saved her son's life in the space of 20 minutes. What could he do with 2 weeks? 2 months? Forever? I need to think about it, Clara said. Fair enough, but decide fast. Storm is getting worse, and I need to know if I am preparing 1 room or 2. He left the kitchen, his boots heavy on the wooden floor. Clara heard him climbing stairs, moving around upstairs, the sounds of a man used to being alone. She looked down at Jesse, her son, her entire world. The reason she had left everything, risked everything, would do anything. What do I do, baby? She whispered. What do I do? Jesse did not answer. His small chest rose and fell, steady now, peaceful. The fever was already dropping. Cole Hawthorne had done that in minutes. What could he do with a lifetime? The storm raged through the night. Clara sat beside Jesse on the kitchen table, refusing Cole's offer of a bed upstairs. She could not leave her son. Would not. Not after coming so close to losing him. Cole did not argue. He brought blankets, built up the fire in the stove, kept the willow bark tea coming. Every few hours, he checked Jesse's fever, his breathing, his color. Professional, detached, but thorough. Around midnight, Jesse's fever broke. His eyes opened, clear for the first time in days. Mama? I am here, baby. I am right here. Where are we? Somewhere safe. Jesse's gaze drifted past her to Cole, who stood at the stove making more tea. Who is that? His name is Mr. Hawthorne. He helped you when you were sick. Jesse studied Cole with a child's frank curiosity. Are you a cowboy? Rancher, Cole corrected. What is the difference? Cowboys work for ranchers. I work for myself. Oh, Jesse processed this. Do you have horses? 20 of them. Jesse's eyes went wide. 20? Can I see them? When the storm stops. I am not tired. Yes, you are. Cole's voice was firm but not unkind. You have been very sick. You need to sleep more. But I want to see the horses. Tomorrow, Cole said. Storm will be done by morning. You can see the horses then. Deal? Jesse considered this seriously. Deal. He was asleep again within minutes, exhausted from even that brief conversation. Clara adjusted the blankets around him, her hands shaking with relief. He was alive. Her son was alive. Thank you, she said without looking at Cole, for everything you have done. I know you did not have to help us. Could not let a child die on my doorstep. Some would have. Cole was quiet then. Yeah, some would have. Clara forced herself to turn and face him. Your offer, the marriage, is it still open? Is your answer different? I need to know what happens after. If I say yes, if we marry, what does our life look like? Do you expect me to share your bed, bear more children, play the devoted wife? Cole's jaw tightened. Told you this is practical. You would have your own room. I would have mine. We would live like we have been living. Separate, independent. Only difference is legal paperwork. And Jesse? He would be my son, legally, completely. I would teach him the ranch, raise him right, make sure he has opportunities. That is what you want, is it not? For him to have a real future? Yes, Clara's voice broke. That is all I want. Then say yes. It should have felt wrong, mercenary, like selling herself. But Clara had learned in the past 8 months that survival required choices other people got to judge from safety. She had walked 70 miles in winter. She had starved so Jesse could eat. She had fled her entire life to protect her child from a man who would use him as a cash box. Marrying a stranger for protection was not the worst thing she had done. It was just the most permanent. Yes, Clara said, I will marry you. Cole nodded once, sharp and final. I will ride to Redemption tomorrow when the storm clears. Talk to Pastor Matthews about a ceremony. Sooner it is legal, sooner your brother-in-law's claim loses standing. Just like that? Just like that? Cole met her eyes. I keep my word, Mrs. Bennett. When I say I will protect you and your boy, I mean it. Why? The question burst out before Clara could stop it. Why would you do this for strangers? What do you really get out of this arrangement? Cole looked at her, and for the first time his expression cracked. Pain bled through, raw and old, and never quite healed. I get to save someone, he said quietly. I get to keep a child alive when I could not save my own. That worth enough for you? Clara's throat closed. Yes, she whispered. That is worth enough. They stood in the warm kitchen while the storm howled outside. Two broken people making a bargain built on grief and necessity. Not love, not even friendship, just survival. For now, that would have to be enough. Morning came white and crystalline. The storm had passed, leaving 3 feet of fresh snow blanketing the prairie. Clara woke on the kitchen floor where she had finally dozed off beside Jesse's makeshift bed. Her body ached from the hard surface, but Jesse was sleeping peacefully, his color normal, his breathing easy. She had done it. She had kept him alive. Now she had to figure out how to keep him safe. Clara stood carefully, her muscles protesting. The house was quiet, no sign of Cole. She moved to the window and saw him outside already working despite the early hour. He was breaking ice in water troughs, throwing hay to cattle that had gathered near the barn. Even from here, she could see the easy competence in every movement. A man who knew his work, his land, his purpose. A man who had just agreed to marry her. Clara's hand moved unconsciously to her neck, to the chain where Henry's ring still hung. Her first husband, her real husband, the man she had loved and lost. I am sorry, she whispered to the memory. I am sorry, but I have to do this. For Jesse, you would understand, would you not? You would want him safe. Henry's ghost did not answer. The dead never did. The kitchen door opened, bringing a blast of cold air and Cole Hawthorne stomping snow from his boots. Morning, well, he said, not quite meeting her eyes. Boy still sleeping? Yes, the fever is completely gone. Good, that is good. Cole moved to the stove, poured coffee from a pot that must have been brewing for hours. He did not offer her any. I need to ride to town, tell the pastor about the wedding. Pick up supplies, You will be alone here for most of the day. We will be fine. Got 3 ranch hands who live in the bunkhouse. Gus, Diego, and old Pete. They know to stay clear of the main house, but if there is trouble, ring the bell on the back porch. They will come running. What kind of trouble are you expecting? None, but I like to prepare for worst case. Cole finally looked at her. You sure about this, Mrs. Bennett? Once I tell Pastor Matthews, word will spread. Whole town will know by nightfall that I am marrying a widow woman who showed up out of nowhere. There will be talk. There is always talk. This will be worse. People will say I am taking advantage, that you are a gold digger, that it is improper, indecent, wrong. His voice was flat, factual. You and the boy will face judgment every time you come to town. Clara lifted her chin. I have faced worse. Let them talk. Something like approval flickered in Cole's eyes. All right then, I will be back before dark. He left without another word. Clara heard the barn door, the whinny of a horse being saddled, the creak of the gate. Then silence, broken only by Jesse's soft breathing and the whisper of wind across snow. She was alone in a stranger's house, about to become a stranger's wife, with no way back to the life she had left behind. Clara poured herself coffee from Cole's pot, wrapped her hands around the tin cup for warmth, and looked out at the endless white prairie. She had made her choice. Now she would have to live with it. The wedding dress arrived the next evening, wrapped in brown paper and delivered by Mrs. Patterson herself. Clara opened the door to find the shopkeeper standing on the porch, her sharp eyes taking in everything. The warm house, Jesse playing with wooden blocks by the fire, Cole's coat hanging by the door. Mrs. Bennett, Mrs. Patterson said, her voice cool. Your dress. Thank you. What do I owe you? Mr. Hawthorne settled the account. He was quite insistent it be ready today. That was kind of him. Kind. Mrs. Patterson's lips pursed. May I speak plainly, Mrs. Bennett? Clara's stomach tightened, but she kept her voice steady. Of course. You have been here 3 days. In 3 days, you have gone from homeless stranger to bride-to-be. That is awful fast, even by frontier standards. Mr. Hawthorne and I understand each other. Do you? Because from where I am standing, it looks like a desperate woman taking advantage of a lonely man. The accusation landed like a slap. Clara's hands clenched on the package. Is that what you think? I think Cole Hawthorne has not been right since Margaret died. I think he is vulnerable to a pretty face and a sad story, and I think you showed up at exactly the right time with exactly the right kind of need. You do not know anything about my needs. I know you are running from something. Everyone can see it. Mrs. Patterson leaned closer. Whatever you are running from, Mrs. Bennett, it will catch up eventually. And when it does, Cole Hawthorne will be the one who pays the price. Is that what you want? Clara met the woman's gaze without flinching. What I want is to protect my son. Mr. Hawthorne understands that. If you have concerns about his judgment, perhaps you should discuss them with him directly. Oh, I intend to. Mrs. Patterson stepped back. The ceremony is tomorrow at 2 o'clock. Pastor Matthews asked me to tell you. I will be there as witness, along with half the town. We take care of our own here, Mrs. Bennett, and Cole Hawthorne is one of ours. She left without waiting for a response. Clara stood in the doorway, watching the woman's bogie disappear into the dusk, her hands shaking with anger and something closer to fear. They were going to hate her. The whole town. They would look at her and see exactly what Mrs. Patterson saw. An opportunist, a gold digger, a woman who had trapped a good man with feminine wiles in a convenient sob story. Mama, Jessie appeared at her elbow. Why was that lady angry? She was not angry, sweetheart, just concerned. About what? About whether we are good people. Jessie frowned. We are good people. I know, but sometimes other people need more convincing. She closed the door, carried the package to the kitchen table, and unwrapped the dress. It was simple, as Cole had requested. Dark blue wool, high-necked, long-sleeved, with a row of small buttons down the back. Practical, appropriate. Nothing like the white lace gown she had worn to marry Henry. That felt like a different life, a different Clara. This Clara was harder, sharper, more willing to do what survival required. Is that your wedding dress? Jesse asked. Yes. It is pretty. It is practical. Mama, do you love Mr. Hawthorne? The question caught Clara off guard. She looked at her son, at his too serious face, and realized she could not lie to him. Jesse was smart enough to know the truth, and he deserved honesty. No, she said quietly. I do not love him. Not yet. Maybe not ever. Then why are you marrying him? Because marriage will make us a family in the eyes of the law. It means Uncle Victor cannot take you away from me. It means we are safe. Jesse processed this with the gravity only children facing adult problems can muster. Does Mr. Hawthorne know you do not love him? Yes, he does not love me either. We are being honest with each other about what this is. What is it? Clara pulled Jesse close. It is survival, baby. It is making hard choices so we can stay together. That is what matters. That we stay together. Everything else is just details. Jesse hugged her back, his small arms fierce around her waist. I like Mr. Hawthorne anyway, even if you do not love him. I like him too. He is a good man. Then maybe you will love him later, after we are safe. Maybe. Or maybe this marriage would be exactly what Cole promised. Two people living separate lives under one roof, connected only by legal paperwork and shared necessity. Clara honestly did not know which outcome scared her more. The morning of the wedding, Cole knocked on Clara's door before dawn. Need to talk to you, downstairs, now. His voice was grim. Clara threw on her robe and followed him to the kitchen, her heart pounding. Jesse was still asleep. The house was dark except for lamplight from the kitchen. Cole stood by the table, a telegram in his hand. This came from town an hour ago. Gus rode out to deliver it. He handed her the paper. Clara read, her blood turning to ice. Located, subject stop. Clara Bennett in Redemption, Wyoming. Stop filing custody papers, territorial court. Stop arriving 3 days with counsel. Stop Victor Gray. He found us, Clara whispered. How did he find us so fast? Pinkerton detectives are good at their job. Probably had men watching every Western rail line, every stage stop. Cole's voice was matter of fact, but his jaw was tight. 3 days means he will be here Saturday. We are marrying today. Will it matter if he has already filed papers? Marriage changes everything. Judge will not remove a child from a stable two-parent home without extraordinary evidence of unfitness. Victor is going to have to prove you are unsuitable and the marriage is fraudulent. That is a high bar. Cole met her eyes. But he will try. Question is, are you still willing to go through with this? Once we are married, there is no walking away. If Victor contests and we separate before the hearing, it proves his fraud claim. We would have to stay married, act married, be married until the legal threat is done. Could be months, could be longer. Clara's hands shook. 3 days. Victor would be here in 3 days with lawyers and court orders and that smile that never reached his eyes. I am willing, she said. Are you? I do not say things I do not mean. Cole took the telegram back, crumpled it. Get dressed. We are leaving for town in an hour. Pastor Matthews is expecting us at 10 o'clock. I thought the ceremony was at 2 o'clock. Was. Now it is at 10 with only Gus and Rosie Mallister as witnesses. No crowd, no spectacle, no time for Victor to hear about it and file an injunction. Cole moved toward the door. This is your last chance, Clara. Once we do this, we are bound together until this mess is resolved. You sure that is what you want? Clara thought of Victor's cold eyes, his calculating smile, the way he had looked at Jesse like a prize to be won. She thought of Philadelphia society turning their backs after Henry's scandal broke. She thought of 70 miles walked in winter, of Jesse burning with fever, of the moment she had realized they were going to die on this prairie. Then she thought of Cole Hawthorne opening his door, saving her son, offering protection without asking for anything she was not willing to give. I am sure. Cole nodded once. Then go wake Jesse and get him ready. We are bringing him with us. He needs to see this ceremony, remember it, be able to testify it was real if it comes to that. He is 5 years old. Old enough to remember his mother getting married, old enough to tell a judge his new father treats him well. Cole's expression was hard. Victor is going to come at us with everything he has got. We need to be ready to fight back. The ceremony took place in Pastor Matthews's small office, not the church. Just Clara, Cole, Jesse, and two witnesses. Gus Franklin, Cole's weathered foreman, and Rosie Mallister, the neighboring widow who had brought a cake despite the short notice. Pastor Matthews was a kind-faced man in his 60s who looked troubled by the whole arrangement. "Mr. Hawthorne, I have to ask, are you certain about this? Marriage is a sacred covenant, not to be entered into lightly." "I am certain." "And Mrs. Bennett, you understand what you are agreeing to? Life on a ranch is hard, isolated. Winter can be brutal and cold here." The pastor hesitated. "He is a good man, but he has been alone a long time, set in his ways." "I understand. There are other options. The church has programs for widows, charitable organizations that could help." "Pastor," Cole's voice was flat, "we are not here for counseling. We are here to get married. Can you do the ceremony or not?" Pastor Matthews sighed. "Very well, but I am noting in the church records that I advised against haste." "Note whatever you want. Just make it legal." They stood before the pastor's desk. Clara in her dark blue dress, Cole in his only suit, Jesse between them, holding both their hands. The boy had been quiet all morning, sensing the tension, understanding something important was happening, even if he did not fully grasp what. "Dearly beloved," Pastor Matthews began, his voice heavy with reluctance, "we are gathered here to join this man and this woman in holy matrimony." The words washed over Clara like water. She had heard them before 7 years ago, standing beside Henry in her parents' church with 200 guests and flowers and joy. This was nothing like that. This was grim necessity dressed up in legal language. "Do you, Thomas Cole Hawthorne, take this woman to be your lawfully wedded wife, to have and to hold from this day forward, for better, for worse, for richer, for poorer, in sickness and in health, until death do you part?" "I do." No hesitation, no emotion, just acceptance of terms. "And do you, Clara Elizabeth Bennett, take this man to be your lawfully wedded husband, to have and to hold from this day forward, for better, for worse, for richer, for poorer, in sickness and in health, until death do you part?" Clara looked at Cole. His face was carved stone, revealing nothing. A stranger becoming her husband. A man who had never promised to love her, only to protect her. It was enough. It had to be enough. "I do. By the power vested in me by the Wyoming Territory, I pronounce you husband and wife." Pastor Matthews closed his book with an audible thump. "Mr. Hawthorne, you may kiss your bride." Cole hesitated. They had not discussed this part. His eyes met Clara's, asking permission. She nodded slightly. He leaned in and pressed his lips to hers. Brief, chaste. It meant nothing. It was over before Clara could even process what was happening. But Jesse cheered, breaking the awkward tension, and Rosie Mallister dabbed her eyes with a handkerchief. "Congratulations," Pastor Matthews said without enthusiasm. "May God grant you wisdom in the days ahead." They signed the certificate. Gus and Rosie witnessed. Pastor Matthews filed the paperwork with grim efficiency. And just like that, Clara Bennett became Clara Hawthorne, Mrs. Thomas Cole Hawthorne, wife to a stranger, stepmother to a ranch, bound by law to a man who had made it clear he expected nothing from her beyond domestic labor and the appearance of normalcy. "Come on," Cole said, already moving toward the door. "We need to get home before the hands start wondering where I am." They rode back in silence. Jesse sat between them in the wagon, chattering about the ceremony. "Are you my new papa now?" he asked Cole. "Legally, yes. What should I call you?" Cole's hands tightened on the reins. "Whatever you are comfortable with." "Can I call you Papa Cole?" The wagon slowed. Cole stared straight ahead, his jaw working. When he spoke, his voice was rough. "That would be fine," Jesse beamed. "Okay, Papa Cole." Clara watched Cole's face and saw pain flicker across it. Grief for the child he had lost, for the chance at fatherhood stolen by death, for the emptiness he had been living with for 6 years. This marriage was giving him something too. Not love, not happiness, but purpose. The chance to be a father again, even to someone else's son. Maybe that was enough for both of them. Back at the ranch, Cole retreated immediately to the barn. Clara watched him go, then turned to find three ranch hands standing by the corral staring. The tallest one, clearly Gus from the wedding, stepped forward. He was in his 50s, weathered and lean, with kind eyes. "Ma'am, welcome to the Hawthorne Spread. I am Gus Franklin, foreman." "Thank you, Mr. Franklin." "Just Gus, ma'am. This here is Diego Martinez." He gestured to a younger man, maybe 30, with dark hair and a careful smile. "And that is old Pete Williams." Old Pete, who did not look that old, maybe 60, tipped his hat. "Pleased to meet you, Mrs. Hawthorne. Been a while since this place had a lady." Mrs. Hawthorne. The name felt strange, foreign. "I hope I can be useful," Clara said. "I am still learning how a ranch works." "You will pick it up." Gus's expression was neutral, assessing. "Boss says you can handle the cooking for all of us now, that right?" "Yes, if you tell me what time you eat and how many, I will manage." "Breakfast at 5 o'clock, dinner at noon, supper at 6 o'clock. 4 of us, plus you and the boy. Boss eats with us now, I suppose, since you are married proper." Since you are married proper, the words carried weight. These men were watching, judging, deciding whether she was legitimate or not. "I will have breakfast ready at 5, Clara said firmly. "And if there is anything special you need, let me know." Gus nodded slowly. "Appreciate that, ma'am. We will stay out of your way otherwise. Bunkhouse is ours. Main house is yours and the boss's. That is how it has always been." The men dispersed, leaving Clara alone in the yard with Jesse. "Mama, can I go see the horses now?" "After you rest. You have had a big morning." "But I am not tired." "Jesse." Clara knelt down to his level. "I need you to understand something. We are married to Mr. Hawthorne now. That makes this our home. But it is also his ranch, his business, his life. We have to respect his space and his work. That means not demanding his attention every moment. Understood?" Jesse's face fell. "He does not want me around?" "It is not that. He is just—" "How did you explain it to a 5-year-old that his new stepfather was a broken man, using work to avoid feeling anything?" "He is used to being alone. We need to give him time to adjust to having a family again." "Okay," Jesse kicked at the snow. "But he said I could see the horses when the storm stopped." "And you will, later. For now, help me figure out this kitchen so I can feed those men tomorrow at 5 o'clock in the morning." They spent the afternoon making the house their own. Clara explored the pantry, found it well-stocked but disorganized. She made lists, planned meals, tried to imagine cooking for 6 people instead of 2. The kitchen was large, functional, designed for feeding ranch hands. She could work with this. Jesse helped by rearranging things within his reach and asking constant questions. "Where will I sleep?" "In the room next to mine." "Where will Papa Cole sleep?" "I do not know yet. We have not discussed it." But she would have to discuss it tonight, because people would ask. And if she and Cole gave different answers, it would feed Victor's fraud argument. Cole came in at dusk, covered in snow and smelling of horses. He looked exhausted. "Supper is ready," Claire said. "Nothing fancy, stew and bread." "That is fine." He moved to wash at the pump, his movements mechanical. The hands filed in after him, stamping snow from their boots, hanging coats on pegs by the door. They ate at the kitchen table, all 6 of them crowded together. The men were polite but quiet, unsure how to act around a woman after years of bachelor living. Jesse chattered enough for everyone, telling Diego about the horses he had seen through the window, asking old Pete about the barn cats. Cole ate in silence, his eyes distant. After the meal, the hands retreated to the bunkhouse. Jesse went to bed without protest, worn out from the day's excitement. And suddenly Claire was alone with her husband in the kitchen, washing dishes in uncomfortable silence. "We need to talk," Clara said finally, "about sleeping arrangements." Cole's hands stilled in the wash water. "What about them?" "Where are you planning to sleep?" "My room, same as always." "Which is where?" "Upstairs, second door on the left. That is across the hall from the master bedroom." "I do not use the master bedroom." "I know, but people will ask, if we are really married, why are we not sharing a room?" Clara forced herself to look at him. "Victor's lawyers will ask Jesse. They will ask the hands. They will ask anyone who might know. And if everyone has a different answer, I see your point. Cole dried his hands roughly. What do you suggest? I move into the master bedroom. You move your things in there too. We make it look like we are sharing the space. But, Clara's voice was steady despite her racing heart, we can hang a curtain down the middle, split the room. You have your side, I have mine. To anyone who sees it, it looks shared. In practice, we are still separate. Cole stared at her. You have thought this through. I have had to think everything through for 8 months. It is how I have survived. Fine, I will move my things after Jesse is asleep. Cole, she stopped him with a hand on his arm. He looked down at her touch like it was something foreign. Thank you for all of this. I know it is not what you wanted. What I wanted stopped mattering 6 years ago. This is practical. That is all it needs to be. He pulled away gently and left her alone in the kitchen. Clara finished the dishes, her hands shaking. This was her wedding night. She should feel something. Happiness, nervousness, anticipation, fear. Instead, she just felt tired. Tired and alone, even though she had just married a man who was sleeping 20 feet away. Later, in the master bedroom with its split curtain dividing the space, Clara lay in Margaret Hawthorne's bed and stared at the ceiling. She could hear Cole moving on his side of the room, the rustle of clothes, the creak of bed ropes as he settled. Clara? His voice came through the curtain. Yes? Victor gets here Saturday. That is 4 days. We need to make this look real. That means, he paused. That means acting like we care about each other in public. Can you do that? Can you? I have been pretending to be fine for 6 years. I can pretend to be a devoted husband for however long it takes. Then yes, I can do it too. Silence, then. Your boy, Jesse, he is a good kid. He is. I lost my daughter before she drew breath. Margaret died trying to bring her into the world. Some days I cannot even remember what I was like before that happened. Cole's voice was raw. Having him here, hearing a child's voice in this house again, it is harder than I thought it would be. Clara's throat closed. If it is too much, it is not. It hurts, but it is not too much. I just needed you to know that if I am distant sometimes, if I cannot be the father he needs right away, it is not him. It is me, fighting my own ghosts. I understand. Do you? My husband died 8 months ago in a scandal that destroyed everything we had built. His brother wants to steal my son to pay gambling debts. I am married to a stranger in a place where everyone thinks I am a gold digger. Yes, Cole, I understand ghosts. He was quiet for so long, Clara thought he had fallen asleep. Then, we are quite a pair, are we not? 2 broken people pretending to be whole. Maybe that is enough for now. Maybe. Clara closed her eyes and listened to her husband breathing on the other side of a curtain. Close enough to touch, but separated by cotton fabric and 6 years of grief. This was her marriage. This was her life now. She had chosen it to save Jesse. She would live with it for however long it took, even if it meant being lonelier married than she had been alone. The next 3 days passed in tense preparation. Cole drilled Clara on their story, how they had met, how long she had been at the ranch, the practical reasons for their marriage. He taught Jesse to call him Papa Cole naturally without prompting. He made sure the house looked lived in by both of them, that Clara's things were properly distributed through the space they supposedly shared. Diego took Jesse under his wing, teaching him about horses. Clara cooked and cleaned and tried to make herself indispensable. She reorganized the pantry, mended everyone's clothes, cooked meals that made old Pete cry with gratitude. She was proving her worth, showing she belonged here. On Friday evening, Cole came in from the barn with a grim expression. Ryder came from town. Victor is in redemption. He is at the hall with 2 other men. One is definitely a lawyer. The other might be a Pinkerton. Clara's hands went cold. Is he coming here? Tomorrow morning, according to Rosie Mallister. She saw them asking about the ranch at the general store. Cole's jaw was tight. She also said half the town is talking about how suspicious our marriage is, how fast it happened, how convenient. What do? We face him together. We show him a united front, a functional marriage, a happy family. Cole knelt before her, his eyes fierce. Listen to me. Victor is going to try to rattle you. He is going to say things designed to make you angry, scared, defensive. You cannot let him see that. You have to be calm, confident, sure of your choices. Can you do that? I do not know. Yes, you do. You walked 70 miles in winter to protect Jesse. You married a stranger to keep him safe. You are stronger than you think. Cole's hand covered hers, rough and warm. We are in this together now, for better or worse, remember? Clara looked at their joined hands, a real touch, the first one since they had married. For better or worse. Damn right, Cole stood. Get some sleep. Tomorrow's going to be hard. But Clara did not sleep. She lay awake, listening to winter wind howl around the house, thinking about Victor's smile, about Jesse sleeping peacefully down the hall, about the stranger on the other side of the curtain who had promised to protect them both. She had made her choice. Now she would have to defend it. Victor arrived at exactly 10 o'clock, announced by the sound of horses and the jingle of harness bells cutting through the morning quiet. Clara was rolling out biscuit dough when she heard it, her hands freezing mid-motion. Across the kitchen, Cole set down his coffee cup with deliberate calm. That will be him. Stay here. I will handle this. No, Clara wiped flour from her hands. We do this together. That is what married people do. Cole's eyes met hers, something like approval flickering there. All right then, together. They walked to the front door side by side. Through the window, Clara could see 3 men dismounting. Victor looked exactly as she remembered. Tall, well-dressed even for travel, his dark hair slicked back, his expression radiating entitled confidence. The man beside him was older, carrying a leather satchel that screamed lawyer. The third was younger, harder, with eyes that missed nothing. Definitely a Pinkerton. Cole opened the door before Victor could knock. Can I help you, gentlemen? Mr. Hawthorne, I presume. Victor's smile was all teeth. Victor Gray, this is my attorney, Mr. Thornton, and my associate, Mr. Davies. We are here regarding my nephew, Jesse Bennett. Jesse Hawthorne, Cole corrected flatly. The boy was legally adopted upon my marriage to his mother. I have the papers filed with the territorial court if you would like to see them. Victor's smile tightened. How convenient. A marriage and adoption completed in less than a week. Some might call that suspicious timing. Some might call it efficient. What do you want, Gray? To see my nephew. I have that right as his blood uncle. You have no rights here. This is my property. Those are my wife and son in that house, and you are trespassing. Clara stepped forward, her hand finding Cole's arm. The gesture was calculated, but the tremor in her fingers was real. Victor, I should have known you would follow us. Clara, Victor's eyes swept over her, cataloging her simple dress, her flour-dusted apron, the wedding band on her finger. You are looking well, remarkably well, considering you were destitute and homeless just days ago. Marriage certainly agrees with you. Say what you came to say, Cole cut in, then leave. Very well. I am filing for custody of Jesse Bennett in territorial court. The hearing is scheduled for 2 weeks from Monday. Judge Reed will be presiding. Thornton pulled papers from his satchel. These are the official notice and summons. You are both required to appear. Clara's stomach lurched. 2 weeks. They had 2 weeks to prove their marriage was real, that Jesse was safe here, that Victor's claim was baseless. Cole took the papers without looking at them. We will be there. Anything else? I would like to see Jesse, verify he is being treated properly. No. Mr. Hawthorne, I do not think you understand. I understand perfectly. You want to upset the boy, plant doubts in his head, maybe convince him his mother abandoned him to marry a stranger. That is not happening. Cole's voice was cold iron. Jesse is my son now. You want access? Get a court order. Until then, stay off my land. Victor's mask slipped, showing the anger beneath. You are making a mistake. I have resources, connections, witnesses who will testify to the fraudulent nature of this marriage. By the time I am done, Clara will lose custody and you will be facing charges for attempting to obstruct a legitimate custody claim. Then I guess we will see you in court. Cole started to close the door. Clara, Victor's voice stopped her. I am trying to do what is best for Jesse. Henry would have wanted his son raised by family, not by some stranger his mother married out of desperation. The words hit their target. Clara's breath caught because there was truth in them. Henry would have wanted Jesse raised by blood family. He had loved his brother once, before gambling and debt and greed had twisted Victor into something ugly. But Henry had also loved her, had trusted her to protect their son, and he would never know what Victor had become. Henry wanted Jesse safe and happy, Clara said quietly. That is what he has here. That is what I am giving him. If you really cared about your nephew instead of his inheritance, you would see that. His inheritance? Victor laughed. Is that what you think this is about? Clara, I am trying to save that boy from a mother who dragged him across the territory in winter, nearly let him die of fever, then married the first man desperate enough to have her. You are not protecting Jesse. You are using him to secure your own survival. Get off my property. Cole's hand moved to his hip where a gun usually hung. It was not there now, but the gesture was clear. Now, Davies, the Pinkerton, stepped forward. Mr. Hawthorne, we do not want trouble, but Mr. Gray has legitimate concerns about the child's welfare. Perhaps if we could just see Jesse, verify he is healthy and cared for. I said no, you want to verify something? Do it through proper legal channels. Until then, you are trespassing on private property, and you have got about 30 seconds to get back on your horses before I have my hands escort you to the property line. As if summoned, Gus appeared from the barn, Diego and old Pete flanking him. All three carried rifles, held casually but ready. Victor's eyes narrowed. This is not over, Clara. I will see you in court. And when Judge Reed hears how you have been living, unmarried for days before this hasty wedding, sharing a house with strange men, dragging Jesse through conditions that nearly killed him, he will see the truth. You are unfit, and this marriage is a sham designed to circumvent my legitimate claim. The only sham here is your concern, Clara shot back, anger finally overriding fear. You never cared about Jesse when Henry was alive. Never visited, never wrote, never offered help when we needed it. But the moment you learned about the trust fund, suddenly you are a devoted uncle. I know why you want custody, Victor. It is not love. It is $30,000 you need to pay your gambling debts. Victor's face flushed. You have no proof of that. Do I not? Henry kept records of your debts. He bailed you out 3 times before he died. I have the bank drafts, the letters you wrote begging for money. I have everything, Victor. And if this goes to court, I will make sure Judge Reed sees exactly what kind of man wants custody of my son. It was a bluff. Clara had no such records. They had been left behind in Philadelphia when she fled. But Victor did not know that. She watched doubt flicker across his face, watched him reassess. You are bluffing, he said, but his voice lacked conviction. Try me. Clara stepped closer to Cole, and his arm came around her waist automatically, a gesture of unity that was not entirely for show. I married a good man who offered my son protection and a future. You are trying to steal a child to pay your debts. When Judge Reed sees the truth, who do you think he will rule for? Thornton leaned in, whispered something to Victor. The Pinkerton was watching the ranch hands, calculating odds. After a long moment, Victor straightened. 2 weeks, Clara. Prepare your defense because I am bringing witnesses. People who will testify to your circumstances, your character, the suspicious speed of this marriage. By the time I am done, you will wish you had just given me custody quietly. Get out, Cole said, before I have you removed. Victor mounted his horse, his movements sharp with anger. See you in court, Mr. Hawthorne. I hope your wife is worth the trouble she is bringing you. They rode off, disappearing down the snow-covered road. Clara stood frozen until they were out of sight. Then her legs gave out. Cole caught her, held her up. Easy. Breathe. He is going to win. Did you hear him? He has got witnesses, lawyers, a Pinkerton detective. And we have what? A marriage barely a week old and a house full of ranch hands who barely know us. We have the truth. That counts for something. Does it? Clara pulled away, pacing. He is right about the timing, Cole. It looks suspicious. Any judge would question it. Then we make it not look suspicious. Cole's voice was firm. We have 2 weeks to build a case, to show we are a real family, a stable home, Exactly what Jesse needs. Can we do that? I kept this ranch running through drought, hard winters, cattle disease, and grief that should have killed me. I can damn well convince a judge I am a fit father. He caught her shoulders, forced her to look at him. But I need you with me. Fully with me. No doubts, no fear, just absolute certainty that this is where you and Jesse belong. If you cannot do that, if you are going to fall apart every time Victor challenges us, then we have already lost. Clara stared into his dark eyes and saw steel there. This man had survived his own hell. He was not going to let Victor drag them through his. I can do it, she said. For Jesse, for all of us. We are a family now. That means we protect each other. Damn right we do. On the 5th day, Cole rode to redemption and came back with Beth Morrison, the territory's only female lawyer. She was in her 30s, sharp-eyed and sharper-tongued, educated back east and practicing here because Wyoming's progressive laws allowed it. I will be honest, Mrs. Hawthorne, Beth said over coffee in the kitchen. This is an uphill battle. The timing looks bad. Your circumstances look worse. And Victor Gray's lawyer is good. He will paint you as an opportunist and your husband as a fool. Then what do we do? Claire asked. We counter with truth, character witnesses, evidence of stability. I need to know everything. How you met, why you married, what your daily life looks like, how Jesse is adjusting, and I need witnesses who can testify to the legitimacy of this marriage. They spent 3 days building the case. Beth interviewed the ranch hands, who testified that Clara worked hard, that Cole treated Jesse well, that the household functioned like a real family. She interviewed Rosie Mallister, who swore the marriage seemed genuine despite its speed. Even Pastor Matthews reluctantly agreed to testify that both parties had seemed sincere during the ceremony. But they needed more. They needed something that proved this was not a fraud. Was not desperation dressed up as devotion? On the 5th day, Beth said it plainly. You need intimacy, not physical necessarily, though that would help, but emotional connection, shared history, the kind of small details only real couples know about each other. We have been married less than 2 weeks, Cole said. Then make 2 weeks count. Victor's lawyers will ask Jesse about your relationship. Does Papa Cole read him bedtime stories? Do you and Mrs. Hawthorne talk privately? Do you touch each other casually the way married people do? Right now, the answer to all of that is no. That needs to change. So they tried. Awkwardly at first, painfully aware they were performing intimacy for an audience that did not exist yet. Cole started coming in earlier from work, spending time with Jesse before bed. He taught the boy to rope fence posts, to curry horses, to read the sky for weather. He carved him toys and told him stories about the ranch's history. Clara found herself watching these interactions from the kitchen window, something warm and unfamiliar growing in her chest. This was what she had wanted for Jesse, a father who was present, engaged, building memories instead of just providing. Cole was doing that, maybe not out of love yet, but out of something just as valuable, commitment. And slowly, without either of them quite noticing, they started talking. Not just about the case or Jesse or ranch business, but about themselves. Late at night, on opposite sides of the curtain, they would share pieces of their past. Henry was a good man, Clara said one night, honest, hardworking. He tried so hard to make something of himself. When his company failed because of his partner's fraud, it destroyed him. He died of influenza, but I think he died of shame first. Margaret used to sing, Cole offered. Old hymns, folk songs, anything. The house was always full of music. After she died, I could not stand silence. That is why I work so much. Cannot hear the quiet if you are moving. Do you still love her? Yeah, but it is different now, less raw, more like an old scar that only aches when weather changes. He paused. That makes sense? Perfect sense. These conversations were not planned. They just happened, filling the late hours when both were too tired to maintain walls. And somewhere in those whispered exchanges, Clara realized she was starting to know her husband. Not just his history, but his rhythms. How he drank coffee black and hot enough to burn. How he checked the barn 3 times every night to make sure it was secure. How he avoided the master bedroom during the day, but would stand in the doorway sometimes at night, staring at Margaret's things like he was saying goodbye. She started noticing small things too, the way his shoulders relaxed when Jesse laughed, how he would leave wildflowers on the table without comment, picked during his morning rounds, the protective way he would position himself between her and anyone who came to the ranch, subtle but unmistakable. And Cole noticed her. He brought her books from town, somehow knowing she missed reading. He fixed the sticky kitchen drawer without being asked. He would pour her coffee in the morning before she came downstairs, the cup waiting at her usual spot. They were learning each other, building something that looked like marriage from the outside and was starting to feel like it from the inside. On the 10th day, Victor's lawyer sent another letter. More witnesses, more evidence, more threats. Beth read it grimly. He is bringing Mrs. Patterson from the general store. She will testify to the suspicious circumstances of your arrival. He has got a doctor who will question whether Jesse received proper care during your journey. And he has found 3 Philadelphia society women who will testify to the scandal surrounding your husband's death. Can they do that? Claire asked. Henry's scandal has nothing to do with Jesse's care. They will argue it speaks to your judgment, your character. If you married one fraudulent man, maybe you are married to another. Beth set down the letter. We need something big, something that proves beyond doubt this marriage is real. Like what? Cole demanded. Like Grace Bennett. Clara's head snapped up. Henry's mother, she is in Philadelphia. She sided with Victor after Henry died. Are you sure about that? Because I did some digging. Grace Bennett has been writing letters to Judge Reed, letters asking about custody cases, about grandparents' rights, about how to intervene in family court. Clara's heart pounded. She wants custody too? I do not think so. I think she wants to stop Victor, but she is old, not well, and she does not have legal standing unless she physically appears in court. Beth leaned forward. If we could get her here, if she would testify against her own son's custody claim, it would devastate Victor's case. She will never come. She is 70 years old. The journey from Philadelphia would take weeks. Then we wire her today. We ask. Beth pulled out paper. What is the worst that can happen? She says no, and we are exactly where we are now. They sent the telegram that afternoon. Clara composed it carefully, pouring 8 months of grief and hope into 50 words. Mrs. Grace Bennett, stop. Your grandson needs you. Stop. Victor seeking custody for financial gain. Stop. Jesse safe and happy here. Stop. Please come testify in his defense. Stop hearing January 15th. Stop. We will pay all travel expenses. Stop. Clara Hawthorne. The reply came 2 days later. Arriving January 12th. Stop bringing evidence. Stop. Victor will not take my grandson. Stop. Grace Bennett. Clara read it 3 times before the words made sense. Grace was coming. Henry's mother, who had turned her back after the scandal, who had sided with Victor initially, was coming to help them. Why, man, Clara whispered. Why would she help me after everything? Cole read over her shoulder. Maybe she finally figured out what Victor really is. Or maybe she just wants to meet Jesse. Does it matter why? No, I suppose it does not. Clara folded the telegram carefully. We have an ally, a blood relative who will testify against Victor. That is big, Beth said. It is everything. Cole's hand found hers, squeezed once. The touch was brief but solid. We might actually win this. Clara looked at their joined hands, at the man who had become her husband through necessity, but was becoming something more through proximity and shared purpose. She had promised herself she would not fall for him. This was practical, transactional, safe. But safety was starting to feel like something else, something warm and terrifying and absolutely inevitable. Grace Bennett arrived on January 12th, stepping off the train with 2 trunks and an expression that made Victor pale when he saw her at the hotel. She was 70 years old but straight-backed, her lined face set with determination. Clara met her at the station with Cole and Jesse. For a moment, grandmother and grandson just stared at each other. Then Grace's face crumpled, and she dropped to her knees, pulling Jesse into a fierce hug. You look just like your father, she whispered. Just like my Henry's when he was a boy. Are you my grandma? Jesse asked. I am, and I am so sorry it took me this long to come see you. Grace stood, still holding Jesse's hand, and faced Clara. Her eyes were red, but her voice was steady. My son, Victor, has been lying to me for months. Told me you had run off with Jesse to trap some man, that you were unfit, unstable. I believed him because I was grieving and angry and looking for someone to blame for Henry's death. But his letters got stranger, more desperate. He kept asking about Jesse's trust fund, about how to access it. That is when I started digging. She patted the leather case she carried. I found things that will make Victor wish he had never filed these papers. The courthouse in Cheyenne was smaller than Claire remembered, but it felt enormous now, looming over them like judgment itself. They arrived early, Cole driving the wagon with Clara beside him and Jesse between them, wrapped in blankets against the January cold. Grace sat behind them, her face set with grim determination. Beth Morrison met them at the courthouse steps, her expression serious. Victor is inside with Thornton and 3 witnesses, Mrs. Patterson, Dr. Hendress from Redemption, and someone named Margaret Ashford from Philadelphia Society. They are going after character, circumstances, and medical negligence. We have Grace, Cole said. We do, and she is a blood relative with standing. But Judge Reed is traditional, Clara. He believes in proper social conventions. The speed of your marriage, your living situation before it. He is going to question all of it. Then we answer honestly, Clara said, straightening her shoulders. We did what we had to do to survive. If that is not proper enough for him, then he has never faced real desperation. They entered the courtroom together. It was already half full. Townspeople come to watch the spectacle, ranch hands who had taken the day off to support them, curious strangers who just wanted entertainment. Clara felt their eyes like physical weight, judging, assessing, deciding her worth. Victor sat at the plaintiff's table with Thornton and his witnesses. He looked confident, relaxed, like a man who knew he had already won. When he saw Grace, that confidence flickered. When Grace stared back without flinching, it cracked further. All rise for the Honorable Judge Augustus Reed. The judge was exactly as Beth had described, 60s, stern-faced, with eyes that suggested he had seen every kind of human foolishness and was not impressed by any of it. He settled into his chair, adjusted his spectacles, and surveyed the courtroom with displeasure. This is a custody hearing regarding one Jesse Bennett, age 5. Mr. Thornton, you are representing the petitioner, Mr. Victor Gray. Miss Morrison, you are representing the respondents, Mr. and Mrs. Cole Hawthorne. Before we begin, I want it understood that I will not tolerate theatrics in my courtroom. This is about a child's welfare. Nothing more. Understood? Both lawyers nodded. Good. Mr. Thornton, call your first witness. Thornton stood, his expensive suit making everyone else look shabby by comparison. The petitioner calls Mrs. Harriet Patterson. The shopkeeper from Redemption took the stand, her face pinched with righteous disapproval. She swore her oath and settled in like she was prepared to enjoy this. Mrs. Patterson, how long have you known the respondents? I met Mrs. Hawthorne, Mrs. Bennett, as she was then, approximately 3 weeks ago, when she first arrived in Redemption with Mr. Hawthorne. Can you describe the circumstances of that meeting? She was at the general store with Mr. Hawthorne buying supplies. He introduced her as his housekeeper. Said she would be living at his ranch to handle domestic duties. His housekeeper? Not his fiancée or intended wife? No, sir, just his housekeeper. I remember thinking it was improper. A widow woman living alone with a bachelor man. But Mr. Hawthorne had been alone so long, I suppose he was desperate for help. Clara's hands clenched in her lap. Cole's hand covered hers, steady and warm. When did you learn they had married? About a week later. It was sudden. No announcement, no courtship that anyone saw. Just one day, Mr. Hawthorne tells Pastor Matthews to prepare for a wedding, and the next day, it is done. Did that strike you as unusual? Very unusual. Mr. Hawthorne had been a widower for 6 years. Never showed interest in any woman. Turned down every match the town ladies tried to arrange. Then suddenly he marries a stranger who showed up with nothing but a sick child. It looks suspicious, sir. Still does. Thank you, Mrs. Patterson. No further questions. Beth stood for cross-examination, her expression neutral. Mrs. Patterson, you said Mr. Hawthorne had been alone for 6 years. Would you say he was lonely? I could not speak to his feelings. But you tried to arrange matches for him. That suggests you thought he needed a wife. For companionship and proper household management, yes. So if Mr. Hawthorne decided to marry someone who could provide both, that would be reasonable. If he had courted properly, yes. How long is proper? What is the acceptable timeline between meeting and marriage? Mrs. Patterson hesitated. Well, that depends. My parents married after knowing each other 3 weeks, Beth said. They were together 40 years. My grandparents married after 2 weeks, 53 years. How long did you know your husband before you married, Mrs. Patterson? That is not relevant. It is absolutely relevant. You are testifying that speed indicates fraud. I am asking what speed is acceptable. Answer the question. 6 weeks, Mrs. Patterson admitted reluctantly. 6 weeks, and Mr. and Mrs. Hawthorne married after 1 week. Is it possible that when people face desperate circumstances, they make faster decisions? I suppose. No further questions. Beth sat down, satisfied. Thornton called Dr. Hendress next. The doctor testified about Jesse's condition when he had examined him a week after the wedding. Malnourished, recovering from severe fever, showing signs of exposure and neglect. In your medical opinion, Dr. Hendress, was this child properly cared for during his journey? No, sir. The conditions he endured could have killed him. Any responsible parent would have found proper shelter, medical care, adequate food. And if the parent could not afford those things, then perhaps the parent should not have undertaken such a journey with a vulnerable child. Clara felt sick. He was right. She had nearly killed Jesse. The guilt she had been carrying 4 weeks crystallized into sharp-cutting certainty. But Beth's cross-examination was surgical. Dr. Hendress, you are familiar with Mrs. Hawthorne's circumstances before she left Philadelphia? I know what I have been told. Let me clarify. She was facing a custody challenge from her brother-in-law who had lawyers and money. She had neither. Her choices were to stay and lose her son through legal means, or run and try to save him. Which would you have chosen? That is not a medical question. It is a moral one. This woman chose to walk 70 miles in winter rather than surrender her child. Was that negligence or desperation? Both, perhaps. And yet Jesse survived. He is healthy now, thriving by all accounts. If Mrs. Hawthorne was truly negligent, would her son have survived? Survival does not excuse poor judgment. No, but it does suggest a mother who fought like hell to keep her child alive. No further questions. The Philadelphia Society woman Margaret Ashford testified next about Henry Bennett's scandal, about how Clara had been shunned after his death, how she had been seen as culpable in her husband's failures. It was character assassination dressed up as fact, and every word landed like a blow. Then Thornton called Victor. He took the stand with practiced ease, playing the concerned uncle perfectly. He spoke of his love for Henry, his desire to provide Jesse with opportunities Clara could not offer, his worry about the boy's welfare in such uncertain circumstances. Mr. Gray, why are you seeking custody now? Because I only recently learned where Clara had taken Jesse. For weeks I searched, fearing the worst. When I finally tracked them to Wyoming and saw the situation, a hasty marriage, a remote ranch, a child who had nearly died under his mother's care, I knew I had to act. Jesse deserves stability, education, a future. I can provide that. Clara cannot, despite her good intentions. And the trust fund left to Jesse by his father? Does that factor into your custody petition? Only insofar as I want to ensure it is properly managed for Jesse's benefit. The money should go toward his education. His future, not, Victor stopped delicately, not towards supporting adults who may have married for financial security. Clara lunged forward, but Cole held her back. Easy, he murmured. Let Beth handle it. And Beth did. Her cross-examination was devastating. Mr. Gray, you mentioned searching for your nephew for weeks. Why did you not search before Clara left Philadelphia? I did not know she was planning to leave. Did you not? Because according to your own Pinkerton detective's report, you hired him 3 days before Clara left. Why hire a detective if you did not know she was running? Victor's confidence flickered. I was concerned about her state of mind. Concerned enough to hire a detective, but not concerned enough to offer financial help. Clara was destitute by your own testimony. Did you offer her money? She would not have accepted it. Did you offer? No. Did you visit after your brother died? I sent condolences. Did you visit Jesse? Spend time with your nephew? Offer to help with funeral expenses? Clara made it clear she did not want my help. Or you made it clear you were not interested until you learned about the trust fund. Beth pulled papers from her case. These are bank records from Philadelphia National Bank. They show you withdrew $5,000 from your brother's account 3 days after his death, before Clara even knew the account existed. Care to explain that? The courtroom erupted. Judge Reed banged his gavel. Victor's face went white, then red. I had Henry's power of attorney, which expired upon his death. You stole from your dead brother's estate, Mr. Gray. And now you want custody of his son so you can steal from him too. Objection! Thornton was on his feet. Speculation and inflammatory language. Sustained, Mr. Morrison, control yourself. Apologies, Your Honor. I will rephrase. Mr. Gray, how much do you owe to gambling establishments in Philadelphia? That is not relevant. Answer the question. Victor's jaw worked. Approximately $15,000. And Jesse's trust fund is worth $30,000. Quite convenient, do you not think? I would never touch Jesse's money. You already touched his father's money. Why should anyone believe you would show more restraint with Jesse's inheritance? Beth turned to the judge. No further questions. Thornton tried to salvage his case by calling character witnesses for Victor, but the damage was done. The courtroom had turned against him. Even Mrs. Patterson looked uncomfortable, realizing she had been used in a scheme far uglier than she had understood. Then Beth called Grace Bennett. The old woman walked to the stand with her cane, her back straight despite obvious pain. She swore her oath and looked directly at Victor with eyes full of contempt. Mrs. Bennett, you are Victor Gray's mother and Jesse's grandmother, is that correct? Yes. Why are you testifying against your own son's custody petition? Grace's voice was clear and strong. Because my son is a liar, a thief, and a disgrace to his brother's memory. He told me Clara was unfit, that she had run off to trap some man for money. He begged me to support his custody claim. Said it was what Henry would have wanted. I believed him because I was grieving. She paused, gathering strength. Then I found bank records showing Victor had stolen from Henry's estate. I found gambling debts dating back 5 years. I found letters from creditors threatening legal action. And I realized my son was not trying to save his nephew. He was trying to rob him. Objection! Thornton's face was red. This is hearsay and speculation. It is fact, and I have documentation. Grace pulled papers from her case. Bank statements, letters, witness testimony from Philadelphia. I have spent the last month building a case against my own son because I will not let him destroy my grandson's life the way he destroyed his own. Judge Reed took the papers, read them, his expression darkening with each page. When he looked up, his gaze on Victor was withering. Continue, Mrs. Bennett. I have met Clara's new husband, seen their home, watched them with Jesse. That child is loved, cared for, protected. He calls Cole Hawthorne Papa without hesitation. He smiles constantly. He is healthy, happy, thriving. Whatever doubts I had about the speed of this marriage, they are gone. These two people are building a family, a real one, and I will be damned if I let Victor destroy it for gambling money. The courtroom was silent. Grace looked at Clara, her eyes softening. My son Henry loved you, Clara. He trusted you to protect Jesse. You have done that under impossible circumstances. I am sorry I doubted you. I am sorry I was not there when you needed help. But I am here now, and I am asking Judge Reed to deny this petition completely. Beth smiled. No further questions. Thornton did not even attempt cross-examination. What could he say? Grace's testimony had destroyed every argument he had made. Beth called Cole next. He took the stand reluctantly, uncomfortable being the center of attention. But when Beth asked him about his marriage, about Jesse, his voice was steady and sure. I married Clara because it was practical. She needed protection. I needed an heir. That is how it started. He looked directly at Clara, but it did not stay that way. Somewhere between her fixing my broken household and Jesse bringing life back into this house, it became real. She is not just my wife on paper. She is my partner. Jesse is not just legally my son. He is mine in every way that matters. I would die before I let anyone take them from me. Even if that someone is blood family. Blood does not make family. Choice does. Commitment does. Love does. Cole's voice was rough with emotion. I chose Clara. I chose Jesse, and they chose me back. That is family, Your Honor. That is what Victor is trying to destroy. Beth called Clara last. She walked to the stand on shaking legs, swore her oath, and tried to steady her breathing. Mrs. Hawthorne, tell the court why you ran. Clara looked at Victor, then at Jesse sitting beside Grace. Her son, her reason for everything. Because staying meant losing him. Victor has money, lawyers, social standing. I had nothing. If I had stayed in Philadelphia and fought through proper legal channels, I would have lost. So I ran. I walked 70 miles in winter because that was the only way to keep my son safe. And when you met Mr. Hawthorne, he saved Jesse's life. Then he offered me something I never expected. Protection without price. A marriage that was not based on love, but on mutual need. I accepted because it was the smart choice, the safe choice, the only choice that gave Jesse a real future. Do you regret that decision? Clara's eyes found Cole's. No, I regret that circumstances forced it. But I do not regret the marriage itself. Cole has been kinder, more patient, more honorable than I had any right to expect. He has become Jesse's father in every meaningful way, and he has become, her voice broke, he has become my husband, for real, not just legally, actually. Do you love him? The question hung in the air. Clara saw Cole tense, saw Victor lean forward eagerly, saw the entire courtroom waiting for her answer. Yes, she said quietly. I love him. I did not plan to, but I do. Cole's face transformed. The hard lines softened. His eyes shone with something that looked like hope. No further questions, Beth said softly. Thornton's cross-examination was brutal. He hammered at the timeline, the circumstances, every detail that looked suspicious. But Clara held firm. Yes, it was fast. Yes, it looked convenient, but it was real. It was valid, and it was working. Finally, after 3 hours of testimony, Judge Reed called for closing arguments. Thornton made a passionate case about propriety, about proper child rearing, about the need for traditional family structures. Beth countered with truth. Two people doing their best in impossible circumstances, building a family through choice rather than blood, giving Jesse everything Victor pretended to offer. Then Judge Reed leaned back and considered. The silence stretched. Clara held her breath. In the matter of Gray versus Hawthorne, I have reached a decision. Judge Reed's voice was measured. It was not easy. The circumstances of this marriage are unusual, the timeline suspicious, and normally I would be inclined to question the legitimacy. Clara's heart stopped. However, the judge continued, looking at Victor with distaste. After reviewing Mrs. Grace Bennett's evidence regarding the petitioner's financial malfeasance and true motivations, I find Mr. Gray's concern for his nephew's welfare to be insincere at best, predatory at worst. Victor went pale. Thornton started to stand, then sat down heavily. Furthermore, despite the unusual circumstances of the Hawthorne marriage, I find clear evidence of genuine care, commitment, and stability. The child is thriving. The household is functional. The marriage, while hastily contracted, appears to be authentic in its current state. Judge Reed looked at Clara and Cole. Mr. and Mrs. Hawthorne, I am denying the custody petition. Jesse remains with you. Additionally, I am issuing a restraining order against Mr. Gray. He is not to contact the child or the family without court permission. This case is closed. The gavel came down with finality. For a moment, nobody moved. Then Clara's knees buckled, and Cole caught her, held her up. Grace was crying openly. Jesse, who had been sitting quietly, suddenly understood what had happened and launched himself at Cole. We won! I get to stay. You get to stay, Cole said. his voice breaking. Forever, son. Forever. Outside the courthouse, snow fell in thick flakes that caught in Clara's hair and melted on her cheeks, mixing with tears she could not stop. Cole's arm was around her waist, holding her steady, while Jesse clung to both of them, his small face pressed against Cole's coat. Grace stood nearby, accepting congratulations from Beth Morrison, while keeping one hand on Jesse's shoulder, as if afraid to let him go. Victor pushed past them without a word, Thornton hurrying after him. The Pinkerton detective had already disappeared. Mrs. Patterson approached hesitantly, her face flushed. "Mrs. Hawthorne, I owe you an apology. I did not know about Mr. Gray's true character. If I had known what he was really after—" "You believe what made sense to you," Clara said quietly. "I do not blame you for that. Still, I was wrong to judge so harshly. You and Mr. Hawthorne, you have built something good. Even I can see that now." Mrs. Patterson touched Jesse's head gently. "This boy is lucky to have you both." They rode back to the ranch in the wagon. Jesse chattered nonstop about the hearing, about how Judge Reed had banged his gavel, about how Grandma Grace had made Uncle Victor turn red. Grace listened with patient amusement, occasionally correcting his more creative interpretations of events. Clara sat pressed against Cole's side, his arm around her shoulders, her hand resting on his knee. They were not hiding anymore, not pretending. This was real. The touch, the closeness, the bone-deep relief of survival. "What happens now?" Clara asked quietly. "Now we live," Cole said. "We figure out what normal looks like for us. We raise Jesse. We work the ranch. He stopped, swallowed hard. "We be a family. For real this time. No more pretending, no more performing, just us. I do not know how to do that. Be normal, I mean. I have been running or fighting for so long. Then we will figure it out together, same way we figured out everything else." At the ranch, the hands had prepared a feast. Venison stew, fresh bread, dried apple pie that old Pete swore was edible this time. They ate at the big kitchen table, all of them crowded together, talking and laughing and celebrating. Jesse fell asleep in his chair before dessert, worn out from emotion and excitement. Cole carried him upstairs while Clara and Grace cleaned up. "He is good with the boy," Grace said, scrubbing a pot. "Natural. Henry would have approved." "Would he?" Clara's hand stilled in the wash water. "Would he have understood why I married someone else so quickly?" "Henry was practical. He would have hated that you needed to, but he would have understood why you did. And seeing you with Cole now—" Grace smiled. "That is not practicality anymore, child. That is something else entirely. I did not mean for it to happen. The best things never are meant. They just are." Grace set down the pot, her arthritis making the movement painful. "I'm going back to Philadelphia in a few days. My home is there, my life. But I will visit, and I will write. Jesse deserves to know his grandmother properly, not just as someone who showed up for a court case. You saved us. Without you, that boy would be with Victor right now. You saved yourself, Clara. I just provided evidence." Grace touched Clara's cheek gently. "You are stronger than you know. Remember that when things get hard, because they will get hard. Marriage always does, but you have already survived the worst together. Everything else is just life." Cole came back downstairs, his hair damp from washing. "Jesse is out cold. Did not even wake up when I took his boots off." "He has had quite a day," Grace said. "We all have. I think I will retire as well. These old bones are not made for courtroom drama." She kissed Clara's forehead. "Sleep well, children. Tomorrow is a new beginning." She climbed the stairs slowly, leaving Cole and Clara alone in the kitchen. The fire in the stove crackled. Outside, snow continued falling, muffling the world in white silence. "Come here," Cole said quietly. Clara went to him, let him pull her close. They stood together in the lamplight, swaying slightly, neither quite believing it was over. "I meant what I said in court," Clara whispered against his chest. "About loving you. I know it was not part of our arrangement." "Forget the arrangement. That stopped mattering weeks ago." Cole tilted her face up, his thumb brushing her cheekbone. "I love you too." do not know when it happened exactly. Maybe when you stood up to Mrs. Patterson. Maybe when you laughed at old Pete's terrible jokes. Maybe the first time I saw you fight for Jesse. But it happened, Clara, and I am not sorry about it. Even though you did not want to love again? Especially because of that. You made me want things I thought were dead. A family, a future, someone to wake up to who was not a ghost. His voice roughened. Margaret will always be part of me. But you are my present, my future, if you want to be. I want to be, Clara said fiercely. I want everything. A real marriage, a real life. All of it. Cole kissed her then. Not the brief ceremonial touch from their wedding, but us in deep and full of months of restrained wanting. Clara kissed him back with equal hunger, her hands fisting in his shirt, pulling him closer. When they finally broke apart, both were breathing hard. We should, Cole gestured upward. The bedroom, our bedroom. No more curtain dividing us. No more separate sides, just us. If you are ready, Clara's heart hammered. I am ready. But Cole, I have not been with anyone since Henry died. I do not know how to be with someone new. Neither do I. Been 6 years for me. We will figure it out together. Same as everything else. He took her hand, threaded their fingers together. Just us, Clara, taking our time. No pressure, no expectations. Just two people who love each other learning how to show it. They climbed the stairs hand in hand. In the bedroom, Cole lit the lamp while Clara removed the curtain that had divided the space for weeks. The fabric came down easily, pooling on the floor. The room looked bigger without it, more unified. One space instead of two. They undressed slowly, carefully, giving each other time to adjust, to accept, to choose this. When they finally came together in Margaret's old bed, it was not practiced or perfect. It was hesitant and sweet and real. Two broken people discovering they could still make something whole. Afterward, Clara lay against Cole's chest, listening to his heartbeat slow, feeling his hands stroke through her hair. Thank you, she whispered. For what? For saving us, for keeping your promise, for loving me even though it was not part of the plan. Best things never are, Cole said. Now sleep. Tomorrow we start over, for real this time. Clara closed her eyes and felt the last of her fear drain away. They had survived. They had won. And now they got to live. The next morning dawned clear and cold. Clara woke to find Cole already gone, probably out doing early chores. But there was coffee waiting at her usual spot, still hot, and a note in his careful handwriting. Gone to feed cattle. Back by breakfast. Tell Jesse he can help today if he wants. Love you. See, Clara pressed the note to her chest, smiling. Love you. Written casually like he had been saying it for years instead of hours. She made breakfast for everyone. Grace, Jesse, the hands who would be coming in soon. Jesse appeared sleepy-eyed and hungry, climbing into her lap while she cooked. Mama, are we really staying forever? Really forever, baby. And Papa Cole will not have to leave? No one is leaving. We are a family now. Jesse thought about this seriously. Good, I like being a family. It is better than running. Much better, Clara agreed, her throat tight. Cole came in with the hands, all of them stamping snow from their boots. He crossed the kitchen and kisses by Clara's forehead, natural as breathing, before pouring himself fresh coffee. The gesture was so domestic, so normal, it made her want to cry. They ate together, the conversation easy. Diego teased old Pete about his cooking. Gus discussed spring plans for the ranch. Grace told stories about Henry as a boy, making Jesse laugh. And Clara and Cole kept catching each other's eyes across the table, sharing private smiles that said everything words could not. This was what she had been fighting for. Not just survival, not just safety, but this. Ordinary moments filled with warmth and belonging. After breakfast, Cole took Jesse out to the barn to teach him about horses. Grace settled by the fire with mending. Clara cleaned the kitchen, humming without realizing it. You are happy, Grace observed. Clara looked up. I am. Is that allowed? After what you have been through, I would say you have earned it. Grace's needles clicked steadily. Tell me something, Clara. If you could go back to Philadelphia before Henry died, knowing everything that would happen, the scandal, the running, the hardship, would you change anything? Clara thought about it. I would save Henry if I could, but everything else, the running, meeting Cole, building this life, no, I would not change it. Because this, she gestured around the warm kitchen, this is better than anything I had before. More real, more honest, more mine. Good. That means you have healed, not forgotten, but healed. There is a difference. Grace left 3 days later, promising to return in spring. The ranch came alive with work. Clara learned ranching through necessity and repetition. Her hands grew calloused, her skin tanning from sun. Jesse thrived, growing taller and stronger. He could ride his own pony now, could help with simple chores, could read simple books Grace had left behind. He called Cole Papa without any qualifier, as natural as breathing. And Clara and Cole learned each other. How to work together, fight fairly, make up thoroughly, how to balance ranch demands with family needs, how to be partners in work and love, and the 1,000 small decisions that made up a life. On their first real anniversary, a year from the courthouse wedding, not the hasty ceremony before, Cole surprised Clara with a ring. Not Margaret's ring, which she still wore. A new one, simple gold, engraved inside with 3 words, forever and then some. It is what Jesse said once, Cole explained, sliding it onto her right hand. When I promised we were a family, he asked forever. And I said forever and then some. Seemed appropriate. Clara could not speak past the lump in her throat. She pulled him close and kissed him, pouring a year's worth of love into it. All the fear overcome, all the walls torn down, all the impossible becoming possible. That night, lying in bed with Cole's arm around her and Jesse sleeping down the hall and the prairie wind singing outside, Clara thought about the woman who had collapsed in snow with a dying son. Certain they were finished. That woman had been so afraid, so desperate, so sure she had failed. But she had not failed. She had survived. And more than that, she had built something beautiful from the ruins, a family forged in winter, tested in court, and proven true through seasons of work and love, and choosing each other every single day. I love you, Cole murmured against her hair. I love you too, Clara whispered back. And in the morning they would wake up and do it all again. Work the ranch, raise their son, live the life they had built together. Because survival was just the beginning. The real victory was learning how to thrive. Clara had found her home. Not just a house or a ranch, but a place in Cole's heart, and Jesse's laughter, and this wild Wyoming prairie that had nearly killed them, but instead had saved them. She had married a stranger out of desperation and discovered a partner. She had accepted a practical arrangement and found passionate love. She had been running for survival and stumbled into a life worth living. Years passed. Jesse grew into a fine young man who loved the ranch as much as Cole did. Grace visited every summer until she was too old to travel, then wrote letters every week until the day she died, peacefully in her sleep at 82. The ranch prospered under Cole's steady hand and Clara's sharp mind. They added to the house, expanded the herd, hired more hands. And they were happy. Not perfect. Marriage never was. They fought sometimes about money or Jesse or how to handle the neighbors. But they always made up, always chose each other, always remembered what they had survived together. On their 10th anniversary, Clara stood on the porch watching the sunset paint the prairie gold and red. Cole came up behind her, wrapped his arms around her waist, rested his chin on her shoulder. What are you thinking about? He asked. About how far we have come. About that night I knocked on your door, certain we were going to die. About how wrong I was. You were not wrong, you would have died. But you did not. You fought. You served him. You built this. Cole's arms tightened. That takes courage, Clara. Real courage. The kind most people never find. We did it together. Damn right we did. They stood together, watching the sun sink below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of fire. Jesse was in the barn with Diego, learning to break a new horse. Inside the house, supper was waiting on the stove. Tomorrow would bring work and worry and all the complications of living. But tonight they had this, each other, their family, their home. Clara had learned something important in the years since that frozen night. Love was not always lightning and thunder. Sometimes it was coffee waiting on the table, wildflowers picked without comment, a hand reaching for yours in the dark. Small kindnesses accumulated over years until they became something bigger than romance, something stronger, something that lasted forever and then some. That was what she and Cole had built. Not perfect, not easy, but real and true, and worth every hardship it had taken to create. The prairie wind whispered across endless grass. Somewhere in the distance, a coyote called to its mate. The stars emerged one by one, diamonds scattered across black velvet, and Clara Bennett Hawthorne stood wrapped in her husband's arms, surrounded by the life they had built together, and knew with absolute certainty that she was exactly where she belonged. Home. Not the place you start from, but the place you fight for. The people you choose. The love you build with your own hands from broken pieces and desperate hope and the determination to survive. She had walked 70 miles through winter to save her son. She had married a stranger to protect him. She had stood in a courtroom and defended her choices against a man who would have destroyed them all. And she had won. Not just the legal battle, but something far more precious. A real family, a real marriage. A real life built on honesty and hard work and love that grew deeper with every passing season. The prairie stretched endlessly in every direction, wild and beautiful and free. Just like her heart, just like her future, just like the promise she and Cole had made to each other all those years ago. Forever and then some.